What's going on, guys? Dare here with Fantasy Football Advice, coming at you with another fantasy football video. Today, we're talking rookies and we're talking receivers. Really excited about this year's rookie wide receiver class because they're very athletic and a lot of them fell into positions where they could make an immediate impact. So, there's going to be some fantasy relevant guys, and they're all going relatively late. So, it's realistic that a lot of these guys could be playmakers on your team as we get deeper into the season. So, we're going to go through which ones we think you should target and avoid. And then I also have a sleeper that no one's really talking about that has a chance to make an impact this season. So, stay tuned for that. But before we do, let's get into the stat of the day. Today's stat of the day, since we're talking rookie receivers, is which rookie receiver in 2018 led the league in yards per route run. Okay, so which rookie receiver last season led the league in yards per route run? Leave your answer in the comment section down below. We'll be happy to let you know who wins in tomorrow's video. We do have a quick announcement, so those of you who are in a rush or just want the players, I'll put a timestamp down below in the description, or you can scroll ahead until you see DK Metcalf, so spoiler. There were a lot of comments in yesterday's video about potentially competing this season in a fantasy league against Nick or maybe I, and we just want to let you know that we do have subscriber leagues. So if you're new and didn't know that, we do have leagues available. The way we've done it up to this point is essentially a drawing, right? So everyone has a fair opportunity to get in there, but that may not necessarily be fair because you guys are the core audience. You guys do the most research and likely are putting in more work than any of your league mates as well. So we want to reward those of you who have the most fantasy knowledge, and we'll give the best competition because we want to compete against the best fantasy players that we can bring to the table. So we just want to get your opinion on it. Would you like the opportunity to compete? Let us know. If you guys just like the video, we'll take that as well as a yes. If you didn't like the idea, still please like the video and comment that you don't like the idea and why, and we'll remove the like. If you do like this idea and you want an edge against the competition, you guys, our draft package is getting ridiculous. We continue to add to it. We have machine learning models predicting the NFL games at over 70%. Those of you that know, Vegas is happy with 55. We also have Daniel Khalil, the surgeon and physician we had on to help us with the rankings and your questions specifically. We want to make sure that we are giving you accurate information in regards to the risks of these injured players. And then there's player breakdowns, projections, our sleepers, targets, busts. There's just so many more things that other companies aren't offering. We just want to provide you the most content for the least possible price. But with that, let's get to DK Metcalf. Everyone's familiar with him because he blew up at the NFL Combine. He ran a 4.33. Dude had 2% body fat, which is not even healthy medically. But regardless of that, he still fell to the second round where most people thought he'd be the first wide receiver off the board. Well, he wasn't, but he did get a good landing spot, landing in Seattle with potential future Hall of Fame quarterback Russell Wilson. Before you get ahead of yourself, I'm not a fan of this pick because he's actually going as a wide receiver 33. You're paying for production. And yes, Russell Wilson's a good quarterback. He can throw high touchdown rates and he can keep plays alive, which will help a unpolished receiver, which is essentially what DK Metcalf is, and allow him to get open downfield. But with him being unpolished, Russell Wilson can only do so much. And it's a really run-heavy team. And although they're going to try to pass more than they did last season, they're not trying to change their philosophy. It worked. They had a really untalented roster, and they made it very far and definitely exceeded expectations. So they wouldn't just scrap everything because they picked him up. And Doug Baldwin left. They're not in a better receiver position as of now, to their knowledge, than they were with Doug Baldwin, because Doug Baldwin was always old faithful. DK Metcalf, with a few drops, can lose Russell Wilson's trust very easily. Now, watching the film though, he wasn't very apt at catching the ball with his hands. He was never the main receiver. Out of college, he was behind as the wide receiver 2, which is concerning because a guy with his size and stature and speed would be a number 1 anywhere. So if he couldn't even beat out AJ Brown, who is a very talented receiver, you can't trust him without seeing it on the field and seeing him develop. Remember, he didn't finish the season last year. He was injured. So you're paying a wide receiver 33 price tag for an overhyped receiver who actually didn't get overdrafted. He fell. It's a good landing spot, but not this year. In Dynasty, it's a great pick. I don't see it. I mean, he could finish higher. The way that he's going to finish is probably boom or bust. He's going to have a big game with some duds, and if he's your flex, which he's being drafted as wide receiver 33, you're not going to have a choice some week when your player's on a bye, and you're going to put him in and just hope for the best. And that's not how I like to play fantasy. I like to have a little bit more control over my risks, and I don't think he has the type of upside to exceed his draft price enough to accommodate the risk. So I'm going to take the approach of waiting and seeing, and if he does disappoint his fantasy owners, that's probably just going to make him cheaper next season. Moving on, we have Nikhil Harry, who is being targeted by a lot of people in the fantasy community and is rising on expert boards. For good reason, there's a lot of targets vacated in New England, and most people think that he is taking over the outside role previously held by like Hogan or Brandon Cooks 2 years back, but it's actually going to be a replacement for Julian Edelman. If you look at the strengths of Edelman and Nikhil Harry, they're almost identical, down to the sure hands. Top end speed's not really there. He got caught from behind plenty of times in the film that I watched, so I wouldn't expect a long bomb touchdown. His burst speed was very high, his agility scores, so separation is going to be something he can do, and also his lack of usage in the red zone is almost identical to Edelman as well, so he's clearly targeted to fill that role, and they couldn't have found a better guy. Getting him involved might be a little difficult though at first because Edelman's still there, so they could eat into each other's production. I think they'll find other ways to see what he can do because it's the Patriots. They don't want to just waste the pick. They always perform well on their picks. And one thing I didn't mention was that he can get involved in more ways than just in the receiving game. He's thrown touchdowns. He's kicked off received kickoffs. He's also ran the ball. So if the Patriots want to get creative with him and get the most bang for their buck, they will. So what's his upside? There is plenty of upside. Initially, and with Edelman there, it's not super high of a ceiling, but the floor should be pretty safe for PPR because he's a higher reception guy and you know that they are going to target him. However, if Edelman does get injured, he could immediately skyrocket to a wide receiver too, and if he's better than we even expect, and he looks good on film, then he could be even better than that. So there is upside. You know, you have to be a little cautiously optimistic, but he's definitely a great value though. Okay, guys, we're moving on to my favorite target in the draft for these rookies right now, and that is Marquise Brown. And it doesn't make sense initially because he's 5'9", 166 pounds, okay? So small Taylor Gabriel, if you remember him from when the Falcons were good, 5'8", 167 pounds, and everyone was scared for him to ever touch the ball. Now we got this guy drafted in the first round, 25th overall, going to a team with an inaccurate passer. It seems like a death wish. But think about this. By drafting Marquise Brown, they basically gave away their whole offensive philosophy. It's going to be very unique, and it's going to be interesting to see. I can't wait to see what they do and if it's successful. And I think we'll find out very fast, but we'll touch on that in a second. Think of what the skill set is of this 5'6", 166 pound. He's a speedster. He's really good at misdirection. He can do jet sweeps, underneath routes, and shallow route screen passes. Plenty of deep passes from Kyler Murray. So long bomb touchdowns, he can definitely do that, mix that in. So what would that help, right? You have Marquise Brown going one way from behind the line of scrimmage, and then you have Lamar Jackson going the other way. So it's going to open up a lot of RPO and read option plays, which is going to make the defense have to commit to one of those, which is going to leave one of the other players open, that being the running back or Marquise Brown, or Lamar Jackson just holds it, which, you know, they're hoping he's not going to do all too often. Either way, though, this is a plan that could work in theory, and I think we'll find out really early, which is good because you don't want to hold on to an underperforming player too long, so if it's not working and Lamar Jackson just can't handle the offense, you can drop him. And a lot of you are like, what? Drop Marquise Brown? He's the first rounder? No, he's being drafted where the defenses are. You're not paying anything for him, so you drop him. If it's Quincy Nunwa, you drop him. So you're already buying into the name, and that means I'm not guaranteeing he's going to be good, but he's my favorite pick because he's basically free, and I can see it working, and if it does work, it's going to be really awesome to see. There are risks and downsides. His height and weight is very low, lowest possibly in the NFL at the position, and that means he can't get hit very often, meaning he can't have high volume, so he's going to have to perform at very high level and be very efficient. And it's not unheard of, especially in a role like that, a gadget role, but you wouldn't want to pay the price of like a wide receiver 3 because consistency is going to be a little difficult unless they have a really good connection. Now, second is, in relation to the stature, he also fights very hard for extra yards, which worked okay in college. He would get the 1 to 2 yards, but at what cost? I mean, the guys are a little bit, he was small for there, but he's extra small. They have like 30 to 40 more pounds on him in the NFL, and they're faster. So if he doesn't, make sure to take care of his body, they're not going to have him for very much longer. Lamar Jackson's in the same boat, and I hope they do what's right, but not necessarily put in that position very often. So there's 2 more guys, and then my sleeper, and the 2 guys are Paris Campbell and Nico Hardman, who is probably the only one you could draft because he is going to be the next man up behind Sammy Watkins, who just cannot stay healthy. He hasn't had a full healthy season since 2014. So what's going to change now, especially if he gets more usage, it may happen sooner. So if he's the next man up, and he's coming from a quarterback with a season of 50 touchdowns. Well, although we're not expecting that from him, there is plenty of upside. If you feel like your opponents are wise to it, then draft him. It's a pretty high upside investment. If you think you can sneak away with him on the waiver wire, by all means, get that value. Paris Campbell, on the other hand, not feeling it. Too many weapons there. He is very fast, not very underdeveloped, but definitely underdeveloped. When you see his athletic ability and you see where he got drafted, something doesn't make sense. So he's going to have to build up the trust of Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck never gives it right away. Eric Ebron kind of was the first person I had seen that initially. However, there is some upside, injuries obviously, but I've seen so many times Dante Moncrief fail, who's actually an equal athlete, if not better, when it comes to the metrics. So I've seen it fail before. I'm not going to be a sucker for metrics on this offense when he's capable of getting it to the guys who aren't as athletic. I do have one sleeper for you, though, that nobody's really talking about, who caught my eye during film review. He is for the 49ers. His name is Jalen Hurd. And not many people are talking about him when it comes to fantasy, but there's some upside. At first, I saw his 40-yard dash time, and it was pretty pathetic. It was like a 4.68. And for a wide receiver, that's slow, man. Those are like tight end numbers. When I watched him play, I didn't see 4.68 at all. So he's very quick. And I may even want him to take that 40-yard dash again. But on top of that, his footwork was making people fall over. He was getting big touchdowns. Someone who runs a 4.68 gets caught from behind. He was not. Several occasions he made it all the way through. And there's word that he might be moved to tight end. Imagine a former running back, which I didn't mention. He was a former running back who, in his first year of college, when he was at Tennessee, he was a running back, and then he went as a converted wide receiver with Baylor. So running back to wide receiver to tight end, you're having the best of both. A running back, wide receiver, and your tight end spot. It doesn't get much better than that, and that's the potential upside, but nobody's mentioned him, so just kind of let you know. Try not to spread that one around too much, but if you like this video, please hit that thumbs up button. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. We thank you all for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.